One of my viewers recently commented on one of my videos asking, why do narcissists want to isolate us from other people? And I thought it was a really great topic for an entire video. So in today's video, I'm not only going to talk about why narcissists want to isolate people, but I'm going to go over several examples of how they do this, what it looks like in real life. Because I think for a lot of us, if a narcissist is trying to isolate us, there's a lot of ways they can do this that don't really seem obvious to us, or ways that we might think that they mean well or that it's for our own good. So that's what I'm going to go over in today's video in hopes of helping some of you out there recognize ways that a narcissist might be isolating you. Welcome to Looking Behind the Mirror, where we explore narcissism and take our lives back as we make sense out of nonsense. As a quick disclaimer, everything I say is based on my opinions and my personal experiences. I'm not a professional, and if you're really struggling, I encourage you to seek professional help. I am providing links below for you. First, I'm going to go over the reasons why narcissists want to isolate you from other people. And this is going to be the shorter part of my video because I think it's pretty simple. Narcissists want to isolate you basically because they want to control you. They want to control the narrative. They want to control everything. It's really all about control. They can't control you if you're talking to other people or getting other people's opinions or you have support from other people. So if they can isolate you so that you are completely reliant on them, or you only see them as your main social network, your social network of one person, they have more control over you and what you can do and how many people you could possibly reach out to for help and how many people you could possibly reach out to for alternate viewpoints or feedback on what's happening to you. So it's really all about control. If you can't reach out to other people for their viewpoints, or if you've been led to believe that you can't trust the viewpoints of other people, you're a lot less likely to start realizing the reality of your situation. This is a way of controlling your perception of the relationship and how it may possibly be quite abusive or exploitive. Isolating you is also a way of creating dependence. If you don't have people to reach out to or people to talk to, you become more and more dependent on the narcissist, and it becomes harder and harder to pull away from them or to leave them. And isolating you is also a great way to make sure that all of your time and energy is spent on the narcissist, that you're not wasting time and energy and resources on people that you could be using to pay attention to the narcissist or serve the narcissist. So this is another reason they would want to isolate you. They feel like they own you. You belong to them, not other people. What are you doing talking to other people? What are you doing spending time with other people? What are you doing having relationships with other people? You belong to them. You're supposed to be devoting your entire identity to serving them. So they feel entitled to isolate you. It's not all about trying to manipulate you. It's just about the fact that they feel like this is their right. You belong to them. You shouldn't be spending time and energy on other relationships. Recognizing the value and validity of your right and need to have outside relationships would be recognizing your autonomy. And narcissists do not recognize your autonomy. They don't recognize your identity separate from how it relates directly to them. So in their mind, they don't understand what the value or need could possibly be for you to have any kind of life outside of how it directly connects to them. So how do they do this? I'm going to go over several ways that they do this and things that you can look out for in your own life, especially if any of these things resonate with you. These are things you can think about and maybe observe from a different light. The first way they do this is they create a fear in you of talking to other people. They make it feel like there's something wrong with you, like you've committed a crime if you talk to other people, especially about anything that has to do with your relationship with them. I was talking to someone recently who grew up in a very narcissistic family dynamic who told me that there was this overwhelming message or this idea that there were just constant family secrets, even things that weren't really that big of a deal. It was just this understood narrative that you don't talk to other people about the family. You don't talk to other people about what we do behind these closed doors, even if it wasn't that big of a deal. So for this person I was talking to, they said this was really confusing because sometimes you didn't know what you were supposed to keep secret and what you weren't supposed to keep secret. So it just created this fear of talking to anyone about anything that had to do with the family. And of course, this can happen in romantic relationships as well, where the abusive partner is abusive, but you feel, until you recognize it as abuse, you feel like if you tell other people about how this person's treating you, that you're betraying them, that you're going behind their back and telling people bad things about them, and that loyal, respectful partners don't do that kind of thing. So this just isolates you more and more, the more that you feel like you have to hide, and you're afraid to talk to other people. Now, in a lot of these instances or situations where narcissists make you feel like you're not allowed to talk to other people, the narcissist is the one doing something wrong. They're treating you badly, they're disrespecting you, they're lying to you, whatever it is they're doing. But they make it feel like you're the one who's done something wrong. If you do anything to reach out to anyone for any kind of support or help, you're the one who's done something wrong. So this puts you on the defensive, and it can really blind you to the fact that you're the victim here. You're the one who's been mistreated, and now you're being punished for trying to seek help. But it can be very convincing. You can really be made to believe that you're the one who deserves even more punishment now for betraying this person that just loves you, just is looking out for you, and, you know, isn't perfect. How dare you go behind their back and tell other people their secrets? I want to tell a story of an experience I had that's actually a really long story, so I'm going to try to keep it really short. But basically, I was working in a very toxic work environment for somebody that in my opinion, was an extremely narcissistic person. And for quite a long time, I really bought into the narrative. I really believed in this person. I felt like I was privileged to work there. It was a very cult-like atmosphere. There were a lot of cult-like features in this company. Anyway, after a while, I started to realize that my boss wasn't quite what I thought he was, that he wasn't being honest. He was being very manipulative. He was making things up to control me and to shame me. And anyway, I started to see through to who this person really was. And the minute I started to see him for who he really was, I got put on his shit list, and privileges started being taken away from me. He started using scare tactics with me. He started doing and saying things to make me afraid that I might get fired at any minute, you know, without directly threatening me. He would just say things and plant ideas to scare me. And one day it all kind of came to a head. He had commissioned a fellow coworker to go through the last couple of years of all the work I had done. And I work in accounting, so these were payables and receivables. There was a specific thing that I do that's too complicated and boring to explain. But he had somebody go through the last 2 years of all the receivables that I had worked on to see if they could find any mistakes. Like any mistakes. And I hadn't had time to audit my work because, you know, everyone in this company was always 3 weeks behind on what they were supposed to be doing because we were all doing the job of 2 or 3 people at a time. So this coworker spent weeks auditing all of my work, and she found a mistake. And when I found out that she had found this mistake, I really can't explain the fear that everyone in this company felt, the terror. We were all terrorized all the time, and we were really conditioned to think that this was normal. So when I realized that I had made a mistake and it had been found, I was absolutely terrified, and I just had an emotional breakdown at my desk. I was just crying inconsolably. I was so scared. I was so upset. I thought I might lose my job. It was horrible. It was horrible for me. And as I was having this meltdown, The office manager, who I had become good friends with, found me, and as a normal human being would, asked me what was wrong and talked to me, and I explained why I was so upset and scared, and she talked me through it, and then she took me outside and walked around the building with me and, treated me like a human being. And a few hours after all of this kind of simmered down, my boss called me into his office, and what did he reprimand me for? What do you think he was upset about me for after this? He'd found this horrible crime I had committed against the company by making a mistake, but he wanted to reprimand me for telling the office manager why I was crying. And I remember that was really the day where I realized that this person wasn't just a little dishonest and manipulative. This was a heartless, cold person. I mean, I realized that that for all of the terror and angst and emotional turmoil I was in, there was no mercy. This guy had no mercy for me, no empathy whatsoever. And he was mad that I had told someone what had happened. And both myself and the office manager actually left that company within the month. So we're both in much better places now, where an honest mistake is not seen as a crime committed against the company on purpose. But I just wanted to tell that story as an example of a really obvious, I think, way that a narcissist will try to control you by just flat out shaming you and scaring you into not talking to other people, even people that you ought to talk to about, talking to the office manager about a work-related problem that's got you extremely upset. But of course, I guess I have to hand it to him that talking to her, with us talking to each other, we both ended up leaving the company shortly after that. So I guess that's what he was so afraid of. Okay, another way that a narcissist will isolate you is to create fear of other people. So not just that you're afraid of what they'll do, of what the narcissist is going to do to you if you talk to other people, but the narcissist will convince you that other people aren't safe, that other people are what you ought to be afraid of. You can't trust other people. You're not safe from other people. And they will position themselves as the savior, as the one who can protect you from all of these evil, dangerous people in the world. They'll make you feel like you can't really live without them because they're the only safe person in the world. You can't just go out into the world in the midst of all these horrible, dangerous, unpredictable people without them to protect you. I think this can happen a lot with children, but it can happen to adults as well. But if you're a child, it's really easy for your parents to convince you over time that no one else in the world is trustworthy and that you can't trust what other people tell you. You can't trust the reality of what other people try to introduce you to or talk to you about, and that your parents' opinions and viewpoints and your parents' choices of how they treat you are really the only thing that you can trust. Another way that narcissists can isolate you is just to keep you so distracted that you don't have time for other relationships. They might keep you distracted by just having you do so much, keeping you so busy. So many things they demand of you, so many things you have to do to try to make them happy. You're so distracted, so much desperately trying to make them happy by doing all these things for them all the time. Who's got time to have relationships with other people when you're constantly serving somebody that has endless needs? In addition to this, they can distract you by starting arguments with you when maybe you're just about to go out with your friends, or maybe you're spending time maybe planning something with a friend or trying to make plans, and they're distracting you with arguments and turmoil. It's really hard to have relationships with other people when you're constantly ruminating about all these horrible things that are going on at home, about the terrible argument you had last night with your partner. It's really hard to have relationships with other people when all you can ever think about is how to manage this really difficult, tumultuous relationship that you're in, when it's taking up all of your bandwidth. So that's another way that a narcissist can isolate you, is just to keep you completely distracted and take up all of your time and energy. Another way that a narcissist might isolate you is destroying your reputation behind your back. And they can do this in a lot of very insidious ways. A lot of narcissists will start complaining to their friends and family about you before you even realize that anything is wrong. And I would imagine that this is more common in romantic relationships. But I knew somebody who shortly after he got married, he started complaining to his circle of friends about how his wife never did this and never did that, and how she was self-absorbed, and she left her dirty plates all over the house, and she had a very low drive, and he would talk about things that really weren't anyone else's business, but he was just constantly complaining about her. And now I look back and I wonder if she had any clue how much he complained about her. I wonder if any of these complaints he had were things that he ever talked to her about. I know that I eventually experienced firsthand something like this, where I wasn't sure exactly what was being said behind my back because it was behind my back. But I did have experiences where I realized, wow, this person's been complaining endlessly about something that I didn't even have any idea was bothering him. Like maybe in this example I was just giving, this person I knew, maybe his wife, I mean, who knows? Maybe she wasn't leaving dirty plates around the house at all. Maybe this was completely made up. But even if it wasn't, maybe she had no idea that he was going around complaining about it all the time. Because it really didn't bother him. It was just an opportunity for him to use this as something to talk about her behind her back. And narcissists will do this to create a narrative where they are the victim. They're the one who's sticking in there and really working hard to keep this relationship together, and they're really suffering and it's really difficult for them, but they're just really committed. And I want to also point out that this can be a lot more insidious. This can seem a lot more caring and well-intentioned than somebody that's just outwardly complaining about their partner. A narcissist might say things like, I'm really worried about my partner. I'm really concerned. They seem to be forgetting things lately, or they seem to be really distant. So they can really paint it as making themselves look like the concerned, caring partner, and at the same time painting their partner as somebody who maybe isn't all there, is losing it, or doesn't really care, or whatever. And maybe all of this is completely fabricated. Behind closed doors, the narcissist is actually being very abusive, but to anyone outside of this situation, it appears as though the abuse victim is the one who's causing all the trouble. And of course, this can be extremely isolating because people already have this opinion of you. And if you get to the point where you try to reach out for help, everyone you know already thinks that you're the problem. Another way that narcissists will isolate you is by creating dependence, by making you dependent on them. They can also do this in a really insidious way that makes it look like they care, makes it look like they're being a caring partner. Like they might say something like, you don't need to go out and get a job. I'll take care of you. They might say something like, I love you so much. I care about you so much. No one else in the world could ever love you as much as I do. Or if this is a work-related situation, maybe they'll make you feel special while convincing you that no one else would ever hire you. So they might say something like, I believe in you. I'm willing to take a chance on you, making it feel like they see something special in you that nobody else would ever see. And I mean, I can point this back to the experience I had at the workplace I was just talking about. When in reality, you're a perfectly capable employee with marketable skills that anyone would hire for the job you're doing. But the narcissist makes you feel like they're really the only one that can see the talent that you have. They're really the only one that would ever actually hire you for the position that you're in. And of course, this can translate into a personal relationship with the idea of like nobody else would ever love you. With the narcissist using a narrative like, I can see past all of your faults. You know, you're a really difficult person to live with, but it's worth it to me because I love you so much. I'm willing to put up with all of the awful things that you're constantly doing. Nobody else would put up with all those things because nobody else loves you and sees how special you are except for me. And they could also make you feel helpless, like you're completely dependent on them. You can't function without them. They can make you feel like you can't do anything right. You can't tie your shoes without me. And they can do this by just finding things wrong with everything that you try to do without their input, to make you feel like a complete screw up, to make you feel frozen, like you can't make any decisions on your own because all of your judgment is so flawed. You obviously can't live without them. And this can be very isolating because it's really hard to be autonomous and go out and make your own decisions and do your own things without their input, without their control. Another way narcissists will isolate you, but it's a little more straightforward and obvious, is just by directly attacking your friends and family. So this should be pretty transparent and easy to see. But a narcissist will just directly criticize your friends, saying like, I don't like the way your sister talks to you. And I don't think your friends really care about you. Now, something like this might be coming from somebody who actually cares about you. So this could be very confusing. What's the difference here? What's the difference between a caring person, somebody who really cares about you, who can see that, let's just say it's your sister, who can see that your sister is verbally abusive, not a healthy relationship. This person that loves and cares about you is trying to tell you, hey, I don't like the way your sister treats you. You deserve better than that. Why do you keep talking to her? Okay, this is coming from a place of true caring, right? Versus a narcissist saying, I don't like the way your sister talks to you. I don't think you should talk to her anymore. How do you tell the difference? I think that one way to tell the difference is when somebody that really loves and cares about you is trying to tell you that somebody's not treating you right. It's not about them. They're not making you feel afraid of not listening to them. If a narcissist tells you, hey, I don't like how that person's treating you, there's this feeling that it's a demand, that they are saying, they're not actually saying this out loud, but what it feels like they're saying is, if you don't stop talking to that person, you're going to be punished by me. You're going to pay for that because I'm telling you, you're not allowed to talk to that person anymore. And if you do, you're going to be doing it behind my back and you're going to be betraying me. You're going to be committing a crime against me because I told you not to talk to that person anymore. That's how it's going to feel. Like, this isn't a suggestion. This is a demand, a command that you're not supposed to be talking to that person anymore because they care about you so much. But if it's coming from somebody who truly cares about you, it's going to be about you. It's going to be like, hey, I don't like how that person treats you. You deserve better than that. Why do you let them do that to you? That's going to be the narrative. It's not going to be this fear, and it's not going to be all about the person that's telling you this. Now, either way, whether or not a message like this is coming from somebody who really cares about you or somebody who's just trying to isolate and control you, it really is nobody's place to tell you who you are and are not allowed to associate with. That's always going to be your choice. So even if your sister is verbally abusive towards you, yeah, maybe it is in your best interest to cut off contact or to minimize contact, but it's still your choice. Nobody has the right to come in and say, you're not allowed to talk to that person anymore, even if they think they're doing it because they care about you. That's your autonomy. That's your own personal relationship and your choice. The last way that narcissists isolate you that I'm going to talk about is how they will destroy your relationships or sabotage or control your relationships by playing the hero, by being the liaison, by representing you, by speaking for you. And I have a story that I want to share that I had actually never, until this day, until I started writing the outline for this video, I had never thought of it this way before. So I kind of learned something today, looking back with hindsight on an experience I had quite a long time ago. There was a family I was associated with a long time ago, And in this family was somebody, I am going to call him Ben for the purpose of the story. Ben was in his mid to late 30s, I think. He had 5 kids at home and was married with 5 kids at home. He was quite wealthy. And from what I remember, Ben was a very intelligent, thoughtful person. He really liked to think things through. He was very level-headed, very practical. And I liked Ben. I mean, I've never had any reason not to like Ben. So there was this thing that Ben would do. It went on for a few years and it was really strange. I, to this day, have no idea why he did this. But for Mother's Day, birthdays, and I think maybe even Christmas, he would get his mother really strange gifts that seemed very cheap and thoughtless. And he did this every time there was a birthday or Mother's Day, and he did this in front of other people. And just as an example, the one I remember was a Mother's Day where we all went out to a restaurant and he got her a pack of those little parachute action figure plastic guys, those toy packages, and a disposable camera. And Ben was a very intelligent person and a very thoughtful person. So I couldn't understand if he either didn't know how thoughtless this gift seemed, or if he was really trying to express some kind of passive-aggressive hostility towards his mother. His mother was a very, very nice, sweet lady, but she was also extremely passive and submissive. In my opinion, Ben's father was extremely narcissistic. I mean, in my opinion, he was a narcissist. And in my opinion, Ben's mother was somewhat of an abuse victim, but had just completely resigned herself to this life. I mean, absolutely wouldn't stand up for herself, always let people walk all over her. And with all of this being said, I didn't understand why Ben would have hostility towards his mother, why he would do this. I still don't get why he did this. I mean, maybe he really didn't think that these were bad gifts. I don't know. But one day, this all came to a head. I think it was a Mother's Day. I don't really remember, but it was one of these occasions where Ben got his mother a cheap, thoughtless gift, and Ben's father called him later that night. This is the narrative anyway. This was the story that went throughout the family. So this was the story that was told. Ben's father called him later that night and complained that my wife has been crying all night, and I don't want to listen to my wife crying all night because you can't get her a good gift. So if you're going to give her gifts like that, then don't get her anything at all. That's the narrative. Now, at the time, I didn't see anything wrong with this. I thought this was perfectly appropriate, because why was Ben getting his mother such thoughtless, slap in the face gifts? Why didn't he just get her nothing at all? Like, why was he doing this? And it's about time somebody said something to him about it, right? And by the way, after that, Ben's gift giving actually did improve. He did start getting his mom more appropriate gifts for special occasions. So to this day, I have no idea why he was getting her such cheap, crappy little presents, but we'll never know. But my point is, in telling the story, is that now, all these years later, I mean, now I am the parent of an adult. And now when I think about it, I realize how unhealthy it was that Ben's mother couldn't talk to Ben herself, that she couldn't get on the phone, or maybe even right there just say, hey, did I do something to offend you? Because this gift makes me feel like you're trying to tell me something, you know? And just to have a dialogue and just to communicate with her own son. She couldn't do that. She had to have her husband do it for her. And I'm sure that she probably perceived this as heroic, as her husband coming to the rescue and doing this for her, standing up for her. But really, this is very isolating. Obviously, Ben's mother didn't feel like she could be autonomous and communicate with her own children on her own. She needed her husband to do this all for her. And I think that narcissists can do this in a lot of ways that can make us feel like they have our best interests at heart, but really it's all about control. It's all about the narcissist making us feel like we can't have our own relationships with other people. We have to go through them. They are the liaison. They are the messenger. They are our savior if needs be. We can't take it upon ourselves to communicate directly with the people we have relationships with, especially if we have problems with those people. We have to rely on the narcissist, and this really takes all of our autonomy away. It makes us dependent on them, and ultimately it isolates us from the rest of the world. So some takeaways from this video that I just want to go over and remind all of you is you should never feel afraid of talking to other people about the way somebody else is treating you. You should feel free to express yourself to other people. Complaining to your friends about the way your spouse brushes his teeth is not the same thing as talking to outside people about the way your spouse yells at you when you fold your socks the wrong way. But in our mind, we can equate these things because the narcissist wants us to look at these things as the same thing, that it's disrespectful and disloyal for us to air our dirty laundry to the outside world, when really what we're doing, or what we want to do, is reach out for help to express ourselves, because in reality, the person we're in relationship with is not a safe place to go. But we're made to feel like we're the one doing something wrong. And it creates fear. We know that there is something to fear if we reach out to other people and talk about what's happening to us. That's a huge red flag. You should never feel afraid to talk to other people about how someone's treating you. You should also never feel like your life decisions require approval from somebody else. This can be confused with the idea that you should talk things over, especially if you're in a committed relationship with somebody who you share finances with. You know, like if you want to go buy a brand new car, that's something you should talk over with each other, right? And come to a mutual decision together with. That's different from feeling like you need to get approval from this person. Like if you wanted to go back to school, or if you wanted to switch jobs, you shouldn't feel like you need their approval. You should feel like maybe this is something we should talk about together and both put input in and both come to a decision together, not something you need approval for. That can be a very small difference, seemingly, but a very crucial one. You should also never feel like somebody else is in charge of who you are and are not allowed to talk to. You decide who you have relationships with, period. Now, there might be a situation where you're friends with one person and then your other friend does some terrible, awful thing to that person. And now your friend over here is saying, hey, how can you still be friends with so-and-so after what they did to me? And that's a legitimate complaint, right? But this friend still doesn't have the right to tell you you aren't allowed to be friends with that person, even if they seemingly have a good reason. Nobody has the right to demand that you cut off certain relationships with people. It's up to you. It's your decision. And if you decide to stay friends with somebody who's hurt someone else, you have a right to do that. And that person who's been hurt has a right to end their relationship with you as a result. But they don't have a right to demand that you cut off this relationship, if all that makes sense. I know there were a lot of moving parts in that example, but nobody has the right to tell you who you are and are not allowed to talk to. And last but not least, you should never feel like your entire support system and your entire network of the people that you can trust and rely on is made up of one person. I hope this helps. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and comment below any ideas you have for me for future videos. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you like this video and would like to see more like it in the future. Until next time, thanks. Bye.